Hello? Oh, can you see him? Okay.
Yes, Nina.
Mr. Ridsdale, just before Mr. Ness continues, can I ask you this? During your life in the church in defending, did you tell lies about your conduct to people who asked you about it?
Well, I don't remember anybody asking me about it, but if they had, I certainly would have told lies about it or minimised what I was doing.
Are you familiar with the principle of mental reservation?
The principle of what, Your Honour?
Mental reservation.
I can't really remember what it. I think it was something we used to talk about in priesthood, but I can't remember what it is now.
You used to talk about it, did you?
I think it was part of. It's an expression that I know from the past, but I can't think what it is.
Do you remember that it might have something to do with justifying you not telling the whole truth when asked a question?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, what do you remember the principles of mental reservation being?
Well, I don't know. I remember the term, but I can't remember what it was about.
Yeah. Now, answer this for me. You spoke with me in a private hearing some weeks ago, didn't you?
Yes, in Ararat, when we had the private closed hearing.
Had you spoken to anyone about the evidence you might give in that hearing before you came to that private hearing?
No, I've spoken to no one about it. I was told not to.
Since that private hearing, have you spoken to anyone about the evidence you might give in this public hearing?
No. Again, I was told not to say anything about it.
Have you had any phone calls with anyone when you might have discussed the evidence?
No.
Not at all.
No, I haven't.
Do you have people who make phone calls to you in the jail?
No one can make a phone call to me. I have to phone out.
Right. Do you have people who you regularly phone out?
The one I would phone most regularly would be one of my sisters.
Right. Who else do you phone out to?
Occasionally I phone Father Brendan Davey.
Yes.
My solicitor Michael DeYoung.
Yes.
When I have to. There's a Father Pat Canar in New South Wales that I might phone about every 3 or 4 months. My sister Shirley.
Now, since the private hearing, when you spoke with me in a private hearing, have you had visitors in the jail? Now, since the private hearing, when you spoke with me in a private hearing, have you had visitors in the jail?
I forget what date. Was that Could you remind me how long ago that was, Your Honour, please?
We know the exact date.
Would it be 2 months?
It'd be in March.
I think the only visitor I've had since then would be Father John McKinnon.
Anyone else?
No, I don't know whether my sister Carmel was here in that time. I don't think so. She was due to come last weekend, but we put it off.
Where does Father John McKinnon come from?
He's retired. He lives in Hamilton.
Right. Yes, Miss Vanessa.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Oh, by the way, you appreciate there'll be a record of the people who've been to see you in jail, don't you?
Oh yes, and also the people that I phoned.
Yeah.
Mr. Before the adjournment, you had given evidence about leaving Horsham Parish. You then wrote to Bishop Mulcairns, standing down from parish work. Now, if you turn to tab 43, you'll see your letter. And you begin in this letter dated the 11th of April 1988 with, following our discussion last Monday, I wish to confirm in writing the matter of our discussion. I confirm my request to step down from parish work in this diocese so that I may be removed from the kind of work that has proved to be a temptation and a difficulty for me. Stop. Now, Mr. Ridsdale, were you told to step down, or did you decide to step down?
I don't remember.
You don't remember
whether I was
whether
told or
stepping
whether
down
I,
as
or whether
Mr.
I
Ridsdale,
decided.
listen to me. You don't remember whether stepping down as a priest doing parish work in an area where you have always wanted to work was done at your instigation or the bishop's. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I am saying that. But it could have been a direction of the bishop, a suggestion of the bishop, or I just don't know, miss.
And when you say the kind of work that has proved to be a temptation and a difficulty for me, you're talking about sexual abuse of children, aren't you?
I would be, yes.
You then indicate that you will be taking extended leave, and that's leave from what?
Extended leave from parish work.
So you're not stepping down in this letter for only a period of time. You're stepping down only on the basis that it's extended leave. Extended leave suggests that you're remaining in the position, Mr. Ridsdale, and just taking a bit of a break. Is that what you intended?
It does. Yeah, it does suggest that. But I think now it would have been that I'd be making a complete break with working as a priest.
Although you didn't say that in the letter, did you?
No.
Now, after you stepped down from parish work, you went to live at Whitecliffs, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
And while you're at Whitecliffs, you offended against a child?
Oh. I can't think of anyone that I did.
Well, there was a family that you met and became friendly with, and that family don't know that you abused their son, and they have visited you in jail. over the 20-odd years you've been in jail. Does that help you recall that abuse?
No, it doesn't.
You were at Whitecliff for some 18 months.
Yes, about that.
And then in June 1988, Bishop Mulcairns withdrew your priestly faculties for 12 months.
Right.
And you willingly accepted that.
Yes.
And part of having your faculties withdrawn meant that you couldn't be involved with public celebration. However, you were permitted to wear the priesthood uniform. Isn't that right?
Oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember that, and that doesn't make sense in one way.
It doesn't make sense that
being removed. I just can't understand what that means.
Did you continue to wear the priestly uniform after the suspension of your priestly faculties in June 1988?
Was that when I went to Whitecliffs, or after Whitecliffs?
After Whitecliffs.
No, I don't think I would have.
You don't think you would have worn your priestly garb?
No, I don't think so.
Now, after your priestly faculties were withdrawn for 12 months, you had various discussions with the bishop about treatment, didn't you?
I don't know.
Well, you ended up going to New Mexico to live with the servants of the Paraclete to receive treatment in relation to your sexual offending against children.
Yes, that was Father Augustine Watson's suggestion and his instigation.
And the...
yes, you're right, I would have had to have discussed it with the bishop, certainly.
And the diocese paid for that treatment, didn't they?
Yes.
Was your expectation that following that treatment you would have a position as a parish priest again?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Would you expect to work in the diocese in some capacity after the treatment?
Well, I don't know what would have been possible after the treatment. Sometimes it's possible to work as a priest, as a chaplain in an old person's home, or say a retired nun's home, or some sort of work like that, where it wasn't really parish work, working in the parish.
Did Bishop Mulcairns give you to understand that there would be a job waiting for you in the church after the treatment was completed?
No, I don't think so.
Now just have a look at the letter behind tab 60. This is a letter that the bishop wrote to the director of the treatment centre in October 1989.
Yes.
In response to his request that you be admitted. And in the second paragraph, Bishop Mulcairns said that he'd made it clear to you that it's unlikely that it would be possible for you to work in the diocese, that is the Diocese of Ballarat, in the future, should you be deemed able to work in the priestly ministry at all, and that you accepted that fact. He then continued, and I quote, "I have not yet made any inquiries from other bishops, as I was waiting for some recommendation after his time at the treatment centre. However, I will take the opportunity at the meeting of the Australian Catholic bishops to take place in late November, early December, this is 1989, to sound out the possibility of someone placing him in the event that it is deemed prudent to do so. Now, did you understand that that was the Bishop's thinking before you went away?
No, I wasn't privy to that information.
Thank you. Now, you travelled to New Mexico for treatment.
Yes.
You were there for some 5 months or so, is that right?
No, I think it was about 8 months.
Now, there's a report of your progress at that treatment centre behind tab 65. And this is dated the 9th of February 1990, and the treatment centre are providing Bishop Malkerns with evaluation and therapy reports about you.
Yes.
Describes you as cooperative and aware of the seriousness of your situation in terms of being able to change the course of previous behaviour and to eventually return to some form of ministry. And then it indicates that you'd signed the necessary release form for reports to be sent to Bishop Malkern on the condition that they are not given to another person without your express permission, and that they be destroyed or returned to the centre when Bishop Malkern had finished reading them. Now, did it come from you that those reports would only be provided to Bishop Malkerns on the condition that they're not given to anyone else?
No, I didn't know about that condition.
Did the treatment centre...
I knew reports were to be sent regularly to the bishop, but I didn't know that there was any condition about them being shared or kept.
You didn't say to the treatment centre you can only send these reports on as long as they're destroyed or not given to anyone else?
No, I wouldn't have said that.
And you didn't know that the treatment centre was saying that to Bishop Malkerns?
No, I didn't.
Now, during your time at the...
Do you have any idea that the servants of the Paraclete were concerned that in communicating information about you, they may be communicating matters which might prejudice your legal position or prejudice the legal position of the diocese?
No, I wasn't aware of anything like that, Your Honour.
If you turn to tab 73, this is another letter from Bishop Malkerns, this time to Father Watson, in May 1990. And it followed a discussion between the two as to what work you could do in the future. And Bishop Malkerns said that in practice, in the light of the threat of litigation, I wonder how reasonable it would be to ask a bishop to give even such a job as was described by Father Watson to you. And then he says, I will in fact be meeting for a week with a group of 15 or 16 bishops, and we'll try to explore possibilities there. Now, you see the reference to threat of litigation in that letter?
Yes.
Did Bishop Malkerns speak to you about the prospect of litigation being taken against the diocese because of your conduct?
No, I don't think so.
Did he talk to you about destroying reports about your therapy so as to not assist any litigation against the diocese because of your conduct?
No.
Now, Professor Ball provided a report for you in your court proceedings. I asked you about that yesterday, Mr. Ridsdale.
Yes,
That?
yes.
You saw him on 3 occasions in May 1993.
Yes.
Now, he made some observations about the treatment you had received from Father Watson and from the centre in New Mexico. And that's behind tab 89, if you can have a look at that, page 4. Now you see at the paragraph beginning, I have some concerns.
Yes.
Professor Ball expresses concerns about the steps that you took to seek help and says that either you told very little of the truth and probably less than you claim, or one might wonder about the relationship with your primary therapist, Father Watson, and his bishop.
Excuse me, I've just got lost. I got lost there. I'll have to read that, start reading that bit again. I got lost, distracted. Some concern about the steps he took to seek help. Yes, yes.
It's the case, isn't it, that you generally told Father Watson the truth about what you had done and what your thoughts were about children?
Well, I thought I would have talked honestly to him.
He refers to the help that you received from Father Watson having decreased but eliminated your behaviour. Now, you'd accept that, wouldn't you?
I did, and I do think it did decrease the frequency of offending.
But not eliminated.
No, no.
Now, Professor Ball then goes on to express opinions about the nature of the help and that it was entirely within the confines of the church. That is, you saw initially a Father Evans and then a Father Watson, and the treatment facility in New Mexico had a spiritual component. Now, did you think of seeking help from outside the church?
No.
Did anyone suggest to you
No,
that you
no,
should seek...
no.
I beg your pardon?
Sorry. No, I didn't seek any help from outside the church.
Did Father Watson or Father Evans suggest you seek help from outside the church?
No, I don't think so. Not that I can remember, but I'm pretty sure they didn't.
Did Bishop Mulkern suggest you seek help from outside the church?
No, I don't think so. I don't think anyone has ever said that to me.
Now, he refers at the bottom of that page that there is some disquiet, and this letter's written in 93, about the particular unit where you were treated. That's the New Mexico facility. And he says, and I quote, "As you have probably already learned, the unit has either closed up or markedly reduced in activity, and itself is under litigation, in part because of accusations and claims for damages in relation to the abnormal sexual behaviour of someone who was in there at the same time as Father Ridsdale, who was going out and regularly offending." Now, were you aware of that at the time you were at the treatment centre?
No, I wasn't aware of it then. I was aware of it later on, and it was, I thought it was someone who was there after I'd left, but what my understanding is that one of the priests who were there for treatment was given the opportunity by, I think it was the bishop of that diocese, but I'm not sure, of doing some weekend ministry in his diocese. And I think while he was doing that, he was offending.
When you say offending, he was sexually assaulting children?
Sexually. That's right, yes.
Was there any other person there when you were there who you were aware of from your own knowledge or from rumour that they were sexually offending while at the treatment centre?
No, there wasn't.
When you came home from the treatment centre, you stayed with your parents in Ballarat for a while?
Yes. Yeah, I did, yes.
And you spent a bit of time with your friend Father Brendan Davey, didn't you?
Yes.
Did you at this time seek advice from the Bishop of Parramatta, Bede Heather, at the time, about finding a counsellor?
No, you've skipped something there. I went, and I'm not sure how I got the job or the position, but the St John of God brothers had a hospital and a treatment facility for mental people with mental difficulties and drug and alcohol problems in North Richmond, which was in the Diocese of Parramatta. And I went up to be interviewed to see if I think what they were looking for was someone who would be available for masses, to say mass in the chapel for the patients, and to be not quite on the staff, but someone who was around to talk to the patients, to listen to the patients, to be with them, to sit in on some of the drug and alcohol therapy sessions, that kind of thing. So I went up and I talked to the brother who was in charge of and I can't just think of his name, and he, I think straight away he said yes, we'll take you on, and I went back to came back to Victoria and packed up what I needed, and I moved up there and I lived in with the brothers. And where Bishop Bede Heather comes into it, because it was in his diocese, I went into Parramatta. It was more a courtesy call than anything else, to go and let him know that I was there and that I was living with the St John of God brothers.
And did you ask him to give you the name of a counsellor to help you with your problem of offending against children?
Yes, I asked him if there was someone he could recommend that I could continue treatment with, or some kind of therapy, and he gave me the name of someone, Peter was his first name, a priest who was living and consulting from a house in Blackburn.
Now, just stop there for a moment.
One of the suburbs, yes.
The Bishop
yeah.
of Parramatta knew about your history of offending against children?
I don't know whether he did or not.
Did you tell him?
No, I don't think I did.
What did you tell him you wanted counselling for?
Because I'd been over to New Mexico, and two of the requirements that they make of people who have been through therapy is to keep in touch with the therapists and the staff.
Let me stop you there. Let me stop you there, Mr. Ridsdale. You told the Catholic
Yes.
Church Insurance in 1994 that at the end of the program, this is at St John of God, that the bishop came over and there was an evaluation session.
Oh, you mean
problem
New
was.
Mexico?
Did that happen in New Mexico or did that happen in St John of God?
No, New Mexico.
But New Mexico told you, the treatment program told you, that what you had to do was own up about your conduct and seek regular assistance in the form of counselling. Isn't that what they told you?
Right.
And therefore, when you
Yes,
sought
yeah,
counselling when you sought counselling from the name of a counsellor from the Bishop of Parramatta, you told him why you needed counselling, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And did you go to the counsellor he recommended?
I went to the counsellor and I had about, I think, 3 or 4 sessions, weekly sessions with him, and there was obviously something not working. We weren't getting on at all well, and I stopped counselling with him, and I took up counselling with a brother, Patrick White, who was a registered psychologist whom I had met when he came to the St John of God brothers, doing some sessions with them.
Now, you then left the St John of God Hospital because you were aware that police were investigating your conduct?
Yes, that's right.
And then ultimately you were charged in February 1993 for the first time?
Yeah. Yes.
And in May 1993 you appeared in the Magistrates Court of Victoria?
Yes.
Now, on that occasion, Father McInerney gave evidence on your behalf?
I don't remember that. As I said yesterday, with that appearance, the only thing I can remember at all about being in court was that my sister was sitting behind me. One of my sisters was sitting. That's the only thing I can remember.
If Father McInerney has given sworn evidence that he went to court with you and gave character evidence on your behalf, you would accept that to be true, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes, of course.
And if Father McInerney gave evidence that you had contacted him and asked him to give evidence on his behalf, you would accept that, wouldn't you?
I would, yes. But I'm just not sure why I would have approached Father McInerney.
Well, you accept you did approach him.
Yes, I must have.
It's also the case, isn't it, that as you approached Father McInerney to give evidence on your behalf, you approached Father Pell to give evidence on your behalf, or then auxiliary bishop as he was.
Well, as I said yesterday, I thought that all the approaches to these people were made by the barrister.
Well, you know now from Mr. Father McInerney's evidence that you approached him directly. Now,
Yes, I must have.
Isn't it the case that you also approached then auxiliary bishop Pell to ask him to give evidence on your behalf?
Well, it looks like I must have done that, yes.
And when you approached him, you told him what the charges were, didn't you?
Yes, he would have known that.
And you talked to him about what he could say on your behalf?
No, I don't think so.
And you told him that you were pleading guilty to the charges?
Well, yes, I may have.
Well, you must have, mustn't you? What would be the point talking about what he could say on your behalf unless he knew you were pleading guilty, Mr. Ridsdale?
Yeah, well, that makes sense now. But, Miss, I just don't remember. What you're saying is making sense and there's logic, but I just don't remember.
Now, in November 1993, you were laicized?
That's right.
And that was with your consent?
That was either with my consent or at my request, and I'm not sure whether it was my request or whether it was the bishop asking if I would.
In any event,
I think it's something that the bishop in those days, I'm not sure what it's like now, but I'm pretty sure the bishop wasn't able to order laicization to happen. I think he could only recommend it, and that the priest concerned had to give consent.
And you did.
That's my understanding of it.
You gave
I did.
consent.
I did.
Then in August 1994, you pleaded guilty to a range of representative charges, and 3 people gave evidence of a character nature on your behalf. The first was Frank Madden.
Yes,
Frank Madden,
that was in Warrnambool. I do remember that. It was in Warrnambool.
and Frank Madden was the parish priest at Horsham when you were the assistant priest.
Yes,
And he was a family friend, wasn't he?
yes.
And you told Frank Madden when you were at Horsham of your offending against children, didn't you?
Well, I don't know whether I did or not. I may have, but I don't know.
And you approached him to ask him to give character evidence on your behalf in 1994, didn't you?
Yes, I think I would have.
Well, you did, didn't you?
Well, yes, but I've got no recollection of talking to him about it or asking him. But yes, well, I'll say yes to that.
Well, you must have asked him for him to come along and give character evidence, mustn't you?
Yeah, but as I say, it was either I or legal team that would have approached him. I probably would have suggested him.
Frank Madden was a family friend and a priest who you worked with. You would have contacted
Yes.
him, wouldn't you?
I don't know whether I suggested him to the solicitor or whether I approached him myself.
Brendan Davey gave evidence of a character nature on your
Brendan
behalf.
Davey, yes.
You asked him to do that, didn't you?
Well, I don't know whether I did or I suggested him as a person I would like there.
And there was a woman who gave evidence, Ms. Morton.
Yeah, Kath Morton.
Who was she?
She was a woman that I had done a lot of work with around the diocese of Ballarat with the Catholic Women's League. And she became a good friend. She became a good friend of mine, and that's why I would have suggested her.
Had you told her about your offending before, as you say, you suggested her to give character evidence?
Well, I don't know whether I told her, but I think by that stage it would have been public knowledge
Because you'd already
because
been
charges had been laid, and
You'd already
it
been
would be
convicted.
public knowledge as to what the charges were.
Now, in 2014, last year, you were sentenced before the County Court of Victoria. And can I ask you to go to tab 120? This is the reasons for sentence given on that occasion. Now, there's a description beginning on page 3 of your offending, and the various complainants are referred to as V1, V2, etc. Can you turn
Where
to
is this
V4?
page?
I'm taking you through it, Mr. Ridsdale. From page 3, do you see the heading offending?
Offending, yes, yes.
And then there's a description of your offending, and those against whom you offended are referred to as V1, V2, etc. On page...
There's no B1 or B2 here.
Well, there is if you look carefully, Mr. Ridsdale. Look at paragraph 8.
Well, we were on paragraph 6, sorry. Yeah, V1, V2, yes.
V4 is referred to on paragraph 11,
Yes.
and there's a description of what you did to V4. And then at paragraph 12, starting with the word although, the Chief Judge said, and I quote, "Although it does not directly involve you, Mr. Ridsdale, there is a further disturbing aspect to this incident. namely that this complainant believes another priest was present for a short time while you were sexually assaulting her and must have been aware of the assault but did not intervene. Now, do you have a recollection of these assaults? Particularly the assault
No, a
against
lot of them I
me.
don't. A lot of them I don't have. No.
Now, these offences were in relation to your offending in 61 to 1980 when you worked as a Catholic priest throughout Western Victoria. Now, do you recall an occasion on which you were assaulting a girl? Now, let me stop there. You generally assaulted boys and not girls, didn't you?
That's right.
There were very few girls that you sexually assaulted.
Yes.
Now, paragraph 11 describes the complainant who you sexually assaulted and which assault you pleaded guilty to. And it's referred to as taking place in Ballarat. And
Yes,
it
yeah.
refers to her being in your bedroom to look at your rock collection. Now, where did you have a rock collection?
Yes, I did.
Where were you living when you had a rock collection?
Most places that I was living, I had a rock collection. But I think this one is Ballarat East.
She's referring to 1966 when she was 4, and then the offence is when she was 10 or 11, which would make it 1972, and you were at St Olympius in 1972, weren't you?
Yes, that's right.
And you were living in the presbytery in 1972 to 73, weren't you?
Yes.
And you were living with other priests in the presbytery in 1972 to 1973, weren't you?
That's right.
Who were you living with?
Well, I said I didn't remember any of the priests who were there with me, but you tell me that George Pell was there at the same time, so I have to accept that George Pell was there.
Do you
But
remember?
I don't remember any of the others.
The St Olympius presbytery was over 2 floors, is that right, with 2 bedrooms at the top?
I can't remember the layout of the... I don't remember it being two floors. There was an older part with a new part built on.
Do you remember how many priests were living at St Olympius Presbytery over the time you were there in 72 and 73?
No.
You accept that when you assaulted this child in your bedroom, that at the presbytery there could well have been the presence of another priest?
There could have been, yes. There probably would have been.
And therefore, as described here, another priest may well have been present for a short time while you were sexually assaulting her.
Well, yes.
And you admitted to sexually assaulting her in the circumstances as set out, didn't you?
Yes.
Then you accepted her evidence as to the assault, and that's why you admitted it. Isn't that right, Mr.
Yes.
Ridsdale?
Yes.
Therefore, you would accept as well her belief that another priest was present for a short time while you were sexually assaulting her.
Yes, I accept that that's what she believes, yes.
Can you help us with who was the priest?
Can I help you with what? I'm sorry.
Who was the priest?
I don't know, because I've said I don't know who the other priests were there at the same time except George Pell.
And it would have been...
I have no idea. Miss, I have no idea of the priests who were there with me in Ballarat East.
Did priests who were not resident in the presbytery come to the bedrooms of priests who were?
Yes. Yes, that would happen.
More frequently, in the area of bedrooms where a priest living in the presbytery lived in, would be priests who also lived in the presbytery.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you said there.
Priests who are present near the bedrooms of other priests who live in the presbytery may either be priests outside, that is, who don't live in the presbytery, or priests that live in the presbytery. And more likely than not, a priest would be present who lived in the presbytery rather than was a visiting priest.
Well, a priest's bedroom wasn't only his bedroom, it was also his study room.
Well, that's got nothing
So,
to do
I
with
mean,
the likelihood, is it?
No, but it wasn't just a bedroom. It was probably the only place where the priest could say, "This is my office." I mean, he wouldn't entertain people there who came looking for help or a talk. There'd be an office, a room in the presbytery itself for that.
There'd be no real reason for any priest to be near the bedroom of a priest who lived in the presbytery other than a priest who lived there as well.
Yes. Well, so what I'm saying is that if a priest came to visit me, a friend who was a priest came to visit me, I wouldn't entertain him in the front parlour or the reception room of the presbytery. I would go and talk with him in my bedroom, which was not just the bedroom, it was kind of my office.
When you were sexually abusing a child in your bedroom, you wouldn't have another priest in there entertaining them in the front parlour, would you?
No.
Over at page 14 of the reasons for sentence, the Chief Judge records that at the conclusion of the school holidays in 1973, she was aged 10 to 11. This is the same complainant, Mr. Ridsdale. Now, if you can then
What
go...
paragraph are we at?
14.
What paragraph though, please?
14, Mr. Ridsdale.
Page 14. I
No,
went to page
paragraph
14. Right.
The Chief Judge refers to the child being 10 or 11 and around the school holidays of 1973, and then refers to another offence you committed. If you go then back to paragraph 12, which refers to 10 or 11, it more clearly puts the timing of that offence as between 72 and 73, doesn't it?
Right.
Your Honour, might the early luncheon adjournment be taken? I understand that the witness is getting somewhat distracted and may benefit from a longer adjournment.
All right, we'll adjourn.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Hang on, I'm getting confused.